like I was saying though, I think that it's just, if you look at all of, honestly, it just goes back to Alan Watts's quote: humans stress out because they're trying to straighten out a wiggly world. And that's not even entirely how the quote goes. I'm butchering it, but he's like, humans are in pain or whatever because they're trying to straighten out this wiggly world, like a world that just operates on waves. And so, like, your fitness and everything, like, it's great right now. And then intellectually, like, both of us, like, my fitness right now is great. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I haven't been posting anything, but like fitness wise, I'm like really excited. I'm like, yo, I'm bringing a completely different physique to the table this year. And like watching your stuff, you've brought a completely different physique this year. And then intellectually, both of us are just suffering. Like, we just suck intellectually. We're not reading anything. Whereas like a couple weeks ago, we were reading, actually like a month or so ago, we were consistent with reading one book every week, right? Like, that was our thing. Like, well, I'm gonna read a book a week. Now we're like, okay, what the hell? It's not happening. But it's just like it moves in those waves. Because like I'd say probably weeks prior to reading, your fitness was probably like doing really well. Your music was like doing better. I don't know. But it's just like moved in these like waves. And I think that like we're killing ourselves right now intellectually. Like, oh man, like we're such pieces of shit for not like focusing on our reading. When in reality, we're just trying to straighten out this wiggly world. Like, it's supposed to be that way. But we have to be applying pressure somewhere. Because you said something earlier that you're like, oh, like maybe that's just, you just lose motivation. Like, there's this up and then there's like this drop. And then maybe it's just not an up and a drop. It's an up in an area and then it drops. And then in another area, it's like an up. And so, yeah, it looks like just a wave this way. And like you said, like we're moving up, but each category like has its down trends for a little bit, like an impulse down and then like an impulse up. But I think we're still just on the incline because collectively, I mean, let's just start with one of the questions I wanted to ask you. This last year, what are your top 3 books that you've read?
Oof.
Hey? Yeah,
Um,
because you've read a lot.
oh, man. Dude, I don't. Dude, there's so many good things. It's just like it depends on where my mind's at. I mean, How to
Yeah.
Talk to Anyone, I would put that up there. It's a real, it's a different feeling type of book because I mean, it literally is just a list of things you could do to better your relationships with people, and that's
Mhm.
really all it is. And it's kind of crazy because you look at it and you see truth in every little thing. And it's like 92 things, I think. Um, I mean, I would say there's my all-time books that I've reread, but I'm not gonna list those. I'm gonna list like new ones that I read. How Not to
Okay.
Die. I'll throw that out there, even
Okay.
though he pushes veganism crazy. Like
Yeah.
just the idea of um your health being the contributing factor to recovering from any sickness, I think is a really cool idea. So I like that book. Let's see. I love how I have to look at them. I'll throw Man's Search for Meaning out there. That's my
Wait,
third.
what? Man's Search for Meaning?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Okay.
Just how in the and that's crazy because I was actually just thinking a lot mindset along the mindset of that book is like you think of 2 men and they both have just like maybe a job. They both have horrible job. That's just like brutal and a lot of work, and it's just really hard on them. And you got one guy that just absolutely hates his life and hates that job, and is just sour. But then you got one guy who's just like, my job's the best job ever. Like, I get it. And it just comes to show, it's just like your outlook on everything is just all in your head, like your paradigm. And that changes everything. That changes. And, you know, that guy that hates the job, he's going to quit. that guy that loves the job, even though it's horrible, is not going to quit. He's going to keep pushing through, and he's going to grow from that. And so that's just kind of the mindset of that book. But
Hmm.
going off topic, but yeah,
No,
those are my three books
no,
this year.
it's good. And it's funny because it's like those three books you read last year. And like right now, we're not reading anything, like neither of us. I mean, maybe we might start reading whatever, a couple of things here and there, but would, I mean, I'd say for the majority of last year, like I read a lot of books. My goal was about 50 books for the year. I didn't hit it, unfortunately. Like that's the goal, is like 50 books a year. I haven't finished a book this year. Like I haven't read a new book yet. I want to finish one, but I'd say I was kind of consistent at the beginning of last year, 2023. Like I'm starting to read consistently, like 15 minutes a day, maybe. But would you say at the beginning of 2023 you were like reading consistently, or it didn't happen until like later?
I don't know exactly when it happened, but I know I was consistently reading for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we were applying pressure to a lot of different things, like a lot of different things. But then there was like parts of our life that were just like chaos and just weren't working. They just weren't fucking figuring itself out. It was just like, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's a hard thing because I'd love to be consistent in one thing and push 100% into one thing to really find success in that one thing. But maybe I feel like it's not exactly about that, you know. It's going to be like that, you know. You're going to have your ups and downs in each area, and as other areas go down, other areas will go up. So maybe it's kind of the wrong mindset. But at the same time, you got to be careful, I feel like, not to find excuses not to push something. Absolutely push as much as you can, but it's okay not to
Honestly,
go 100 all the time, I guess.
yeah. Well, when I think about it, I think of the whole like nature consumes the weak thing, and we look at growth versus decaying as that like percentage of growth that you make versus the percentage of like a deterioration that you make. And like the analogy I like to think of is the elderly man that I knew before I moved to Hawaii. I watched him just deteriorate at a violent rate before I moved. And I just watched this man like every day. All he did, he didn't drink any water. He drank 6 cups of coffee a day and maybe like a tall glass of Dr. Pepper. And he chain smoked cigarettes, and he would eat maybe a bowl of Cheerios once a day, maybe if he was lucky, and then maybe once a week he would have a grilled cheese. And I was watching this man; he was in his 80s, and I was like, this guy is dying quick. And the following year, he did pass away. And I remember watching him being like, if he were to trade out like 3 of these cups of coffee for like 3 cups of water, and if he were to like trade out those Cheerios for like a steak, and like he actually just started inputting a percentage of growth, because you look at all those things and you're like, okay, those are percentages of like deterioration, that's like dying. Like, okay, every cigarette is a -1. Okay, and let's think of like every not cup of coffee, I mean everything that's not a cup of water is like a percentage down. So if he's not having those cups of water and he's just having Dr. Pepper, that's like 1% down. And then the bowl of Cheerios, obviously, that wasn't doing anything for him. So that's another percentage down. He's missing how many other meals in a day? No vitamins. So those are all percentages down. So he's like dying at this rate. We're watching this like move down every day. And like 6 months into knowing this guy, he went from walking every day to having a cane and being barely like able to walk. And I'm like, shit, man, like he's really going quick. And we look at like our growth that we make, we're still like climbing the ladder. We're still trying. Like where you're like growing in fitness, you're like doing a lot, working out, eating, getting your nutrients in. Yeah, you're not making the percentage growth that you want intellectually, but you're still like on the incline. Whether it's fitness, music, there's still like this incline. And I feel like health wise, you and I have maintained an incline, an aggressive incline for the last 13 plus years. Whereas you look at a lot of the people that we graduated with, and like the percentage decline is there, and it's self-evident. And it's like, okay, you can see that deterioration. You can see those negative points hitting that. hitting their body, hitting their physique, and you're like, I know what that looks like. Not to like degrade or talk down on them. It's just like, I don't know. Like you still have the growth. It's still there. It's still happening. The percentage is still happening, but it's like little by little. And I think of like the old man that I was watching die. Like, yeah, we would have loved to see a net positive of like 60 in one day, right? A 60-point increase, let's just say, in health in one day. That'd be like him going for a run, eating 2 steaks, taking his vitamins, like doing these things, right? That's a net positive of whatever, kicking 6 cigarettes, not doing 6 cigarettes today. I'm going to stop those. It's a net positive of like plus 6%. And he could have done like a huge positive of like 20 points in one day, right? He could have done that. And if you look at your days, what you do, there's probably days where you have a net positive of like 30 fucking points. You don't really have net negative days of, say negative of 20 or a negative of 15. Like maybe if you do have a net negative day, it's like a -2. But overall, you're still like climbing. But the days where you're like, say it's a net positive of 2, you're kicking your ass for it. You're like, man, like I'm not doing anything. Like I'm not doing my music. I'm not reading. I'm working out super fucking hard. And that's still a net positive though. Like you're taking your vitamins. You're taking your protein. So you're probably a net positive of like 15% increase in growth. But you're still kicking your ass because you're not like intellectually positive 15 or 30 or whatever. So I don't know, it's just something to think about.
Well, it honestly reminds me of the book How Not to Die, like the whole concept of like trading things out and such to improve your life. Like in the book, it literally talks about how there's these people with these a lot of times terminal diseases like cancer and such, where they make changes in their diet and they stop eating, fast food or stop eating a lot of sugar or something like that, and then start eating, more vegetables, more fruits and stuff like that. And there's literal studies in it where they've reversed the terminal disease to where they are no longer gonna die from it, and they reverse the effect. And it's just kind of cool to see that your body is a crazy machine. And they say cancers always exist and everyone has cancer in them. You think your body isn't capable of fighting it off? I refuse to believe that we're just meant to, it's just inevitable. It's going to kill us,
No.
No. And then I think it goes along that way, with everything is our minds and our bodies are capable of crazy things if you give them the right tools to get there, right? If you're going to feed your body tons of crap food and you expect that you're not going to die of a terminal disease is kind of dumb. The same thing as, with a goal you want to accomplish. I feel like if you're putting in crappy inputs, a lot of social media, movies or whatever, and you're not feeding it what it needs to, then obviously you're not going to get to that goal. But it kind of comes to my head of wanting to accomplish certain areas and increase in certain areas. And I'm thinking about, I haven't been reading none, not even a second a day. And I think it just comes back to our original idea of our 2 minutes to life, is just how hard is it to put 2 minutes into it? And that just kind of hit me hard is just, I can read for a few minutes a day. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of frustrating. And so I understand there's going to be ups and downs. And like I talked about it, how before, my intellectual was superior and my physical was mediocre and my music was horrible. And now, my physical's superior, my music's mediocre, and my intellectual's horrible. I feel like although you're going to have superior and you're going to have, mediocre, I feel like it never has to be horrible thinking about it. Because if I'm reading 2 minutes a day, my intellectual, I feel like, will not be horrible. It will be mediocre. And it would still be growing, right? Instead of plateauing, it would still be growing. And so thinking about that, and I realized all I have to do is just a few minutes a day. If it's the end of the day, I'm about to go to bed, and like, shoot, I didn't get my reading in. How hard is it to pull it out? and read a page.
Mhm.
You know? So I feel like you, with all your tasks, as long as you're consistent and find at least 2 minutes a day, nothing will be horrible, and you'll be progressing in each. I feel like the only time that it will go downhill is when you're not doing anything.
Mhm.
But if you are able to do a minute, 2 minutes, then you will increase, if not only maintain, you know?
Mhm. I also think it's important to not grade yourself on just a weekly or monthly time horizon. I think you should extend it to a year. So, like, for you, if you were to grade your last year, instead of measuring it by month, like, let's just look at it as a whole year time horizon. Net positive by hundreds, let's say 100, 200, 300, 400, all the way up to like 1,000. If you were to grade your last year, net positive of intellectual growth, what would you rate it at? Or net negative, if any, which I doubt it because you read so many books last year. What net positive would you rate last year?
Yeah, in the year aspect, I would say my intellectual growth has been crazy. Because even though like the last few months or month, I haven't read a book at all. You know, I just mentioned a few books I've read in the past year, and I've mentioned a lot of things I learned from those books. And I would say that alone is superior. So I would say I would be, I don't know how to grade that, but definitely the high end, 900.
Yeah. See? Say
Crazy
say
high.
say it's all the way up to like 1,000. Like 900 is so fucking good. Like that's a massive net positive on intellectual growth. And like physical growth. Let's look at last year. How would you rate it from like negative 1,000 to like positive 1,000? Like what's your net positive? Because I know it's a positive because you've been training even just a little bit.
Yeah, I would just on the past 3 months alone, that's where all the growth came in. You know, even if the year before that was zero, like just the 3 months alone, I would say is crazy high. You know, another
Yeah.
900, I would say.
Yeah, see? And it's like if you just extend that time horizon to a year, last 3 months and then the 9 months prior, if you're sitting at a 900, like you're net positive, bro. Like by a lot. We just beat the shit out of ourselves when we're not hitting that high consistently throughout the entire year. But let's be honest, you can't be a full 10 all the fucking time in all categories. You have to slow down in some, push the gas on another, bring another to like medium. It's just a game of just like balancing these things. But as long as you're net positive, like you're still growing. And in
True.
theory, in my theory, not factual, I'm just saying my theory, you're going to live forever. Like you can't die so long as you're growing. You're not deteriorating. You're not going down by a certain percentage intellectually, health, and like stimulation of creation. Like I consider your music as an output of the soul, and so long as you're making some sort of output of the soul, you're granted life. Like when I look at that old man that was deteriorating, he wasn't building anything. He wasn't doing anything really. He was just like sitting there and watching the news all day, every day for years. Wasn't eating healthy. There was no healthy input and no healthy output. And I truly believe that that's just what causes death. And I know that it's controversial or shit, but I genuinely believe you can live forever so long as you're growing by a net positive percentage every year. So, all categories, I think you grew by quite a fucking bit. Like intellectual, even musical, even if music was like mediocre all year. Let's say, what would you grade it? What would you grade your music like for the last year?
I know towards the beginning of a year ago, I guess, I was hitting music decently, but I don't remember how good I was hitting it, but I know there was like a good few month period where it was just struggling. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, in the past 2 weeks, it has been amazing to dive into that and find that creativity. And although I still haven't released anything recently or um, nothing official, but in the last 2 weeks, I would say the growth is just, it might have been like the past year is just like this, but then the last 2 weeks, it's
Yeah.
definitely like that. And so I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but it's been good, and like literally that's all that it takes. That's all that it took is just find some time to do it.
Mhm.
That's literally all it takes. And obviously you need input on ideas and stuff to go, and but at the same time, like, if you give yourself a few minutes just to go, just to do it, and especially if it's a goal of yours, that means you have passion for it, and so you find that time and conserve that time, you're gonna like that time and you're gonna grow in that time. And that's what it took for my music to come back, and it's coming back. It's gonna be a good comeback.
Dude, I'm still offended that you've only dropped like 6 songs. And the amount of songs that you've sent to me over the last like 4 years, I'm like, why? You've sent me hundreds of songs.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many factors
Yeah.
to, like, even just the things we've been talking about. There's so many factors to your motivation and to your consistency, and there's so many things that just hit you hard. And
Yeah.
when it comes to creativity wise things like art, it is hard
Yeah.
because a lot of times people will tell you, or your mind will go to the places like, where am I going with this? What am
Mm,
I accomplishing with this? Is this gonna go anywhere? And it's a horrible mindset, but
mm,
regardless of what artist you are, like, it's gonna come to you. And
mm,
so it doesn't matter though. Like I said before, I think I said in the last podcast, like, I am a firm believer that your true success is what's going on in here. My
mm.
music goes nowhere my whole life. I don't care. And I got to convince myself that I don't care because I love it. And my number one fan, it's myself. I love
Mm,
the freaking music I'm making, and I love the process of doing it. And essentially, that mindset is what I believe could bring me to success. If I don't let the negative mindset get to me, it's like, it's not going anywhere. I should stop. I won't
mm.
stop. I'm going to keep doing it. And I feel like that will bring me success.
I honestly, it's kind of funny that you say you're your number one fan. I'm a little offended.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. It's just in the full process of it, it's it's the whole process of growing from it, and like, the most beautiful part of creating a piece of art, I feel like, is the process at which it is created.
Mm,
And although with pieces of art people will see the end result, they and don't get me wrong, the end result can be freaking amazing,
mm,
but I think the most beautiful thing is the process of how it got there.
mm,
And you don't understand. No one understands that unless you were there in the process. And that moment at which something comes together and creates something awesome, just even a little part of the song, a little part of the picture, and it's freaking awesome. And that feeling is unlike any other feeling. And I wish other people could realize that. And so that's why I say I'm my number one fan, because I'm all the way in that process.
mm.
And part of me, that's why I kind of want to share that process, like, as an artist, like, find a way to share that, the process of it becoming to be, because I feel like that's the most beautiful thing. Just like, look at fitness. Like, I could
Yeah.
get super huge, and then at the end of my bulk, I could take pictures and be like, yeah, look, and everyone be like, wow, that's cool. But the real beauty is, honestly, and I'm kind of proud of it, is just how I'm doing my my content right now with fitness.
Mm.
It's like every week I'm pushing more weight, and I'm creating a log of that. I'm creating my whole account's based off of that. And so I think that's really cool. That's the beauty of it, is the becoming to be.
It's kind of crazy. I think of your music as like my lifting. Like, you don't put out as much music, and I don't put out like barely any fitness content. I'm like still very just like, and it's so sacred to me. Like, my lifting is so sacred to me, and it's so hard to like put it out there to be like, hey guys, this is what I'm like. And I'll put out like little snippets, and every time I do, people are like, "Oh, fucking dude, you look great." I'm like, "Oh God, don't look, like, don't look."
I feel like it's that whole concept of being humble, and like I said, how you should be your number one fan is don't do it for others.
Yeah.
Don't post for others. Don't create for others. Do it for yourself. And like I said, with my fitness, it's just really cool. Literal, just self documentation of my progress. And for me alone, that's the cool thing. Whether I get followers or not from it, it's a
Mhm.
cool process. And I feel like people truly admire the process. And I feel like that's the true, genuine thing that will bring you success is documenting the process of something, becoming something.
It's kind of funny because I have been documenting it. I just haven't been releasing any of the information. I haven't been releasing any of the videos, but I've taken
Why
so
not?
many.
Just
It's
do
so
it, dude.
difficult for me.
Just do
So
it, dude. Who cares?
the arm feeder that workout that I told you about last week that I was doing, I recorded the whole thing. So all like almost what? So 300 plus what's 60? Why can't I do math? 100. So 480 reps, I think total. Is that right? Yeah, 480 reps. I recorded the whole thing, but I haven't released any of that. I'm just like, nah.
Why not?
it's so when it comes to my fitness, I can't. I have like a certain echelon of success when it comes to my fitness that I'm like, I can't release anything that's less than the highest peak of what I've already released. And so like I look at posts that I've put out there that where I was just at like the top of my physique and I'm like and I've released a quick 10-second video of like, here guys. And I can't it's hard for me to drop something that may look less than that, even though like the less than is what feeds that whole thing. So it's not fair to not show like the process of like the little things that I'm doing, even when I don't have like the sluttiest pump going. It's hard for me to not to post like this. Like I can't post something that's not the greatest pump. That's not like 20 grams deep of creatine. Like I can't do it.
That's the wrong mindset though. Because and that's one thing is just you'll never post anything.
No.
In all seriousness, like thinking about it, like it's like my music, I'm always going to improve. I'm always going to have better music. And so if I always want to post the best music, my best is always a week down the road. And thus I'll always be seeking out what's in the future.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you'll never post anything. Cuz in my with my fitness, it's just like my bulk's at the end of my workout. I mean, my pump's at the end of my workout, right? So how am I going to record the workout if my pump's at the end? How am I going to post it?
I know.
You can't think that way. You got to think of the process and in the whole aspect of it. Like if you look over my posts in the last, when I've been bulking for the last 3 months, if I didn't want to post at the beginning and like now I'm obviously I have a lot more muscle on me, but even at the beginning my physique was still good and better than a lot of people. And thus it attracted people still, even though I was at the beginning of my bulk. And so, and just like my music right now, it's not the best, but it's still decent. And it'll still attract attention. And so you can't hold yourself back from your best because your best is always down the road.
I know. It's so difficult. It's so funny to me because
it is hard. I've been there.
Yeah. It's so funny because like I want to post like the last workout that I did during the arm feeder, like the last set that I did of 100. I'm like, yeah, that's when it really was like all there. It's like you can't just fucking.
I think it's beautiful though. I mean, look at our first podcast.
Oh God.
You could go back to that and you could cringe so hard because it was probably so bad. And it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it hasn't been a year. So it's kind of crazy. You see the growth, but that's the beauty in it. And I'm honestly timid. Sometimes I like think about someone asked me to see like one of my beginning songs or something. And it is embarrassing because that stuff was bad. But at the same time, not only is it cool to see how much I progressed, but it also gives people hope. Because if I give them my first song and it is the worst song they have ever heard in their life, it's like, wow, if he started from there, what can I do? And it just that's the beauty in it. You see the progress, and then everyone realizes, wow, I could get there too.
Yeah.
You just gotta post it. Just post your stuff.
I know. It kills me, man. I want a show. I want to like let people in on the process. And it's like, this funny thing is like the craziest part is I know a lot of people will look at the process and be like, that's it? That's all you got to do? Because like a lot of the stuff I do, like they're a little more abstract. It's like some of the stuff is just like a little more abstract workouts, but it's not crazy shit. Like most of it's just the same shit I've been doing for 13 fucking years. Like it's the same fucking curls. It's the same tricep extensions. It's the push-ups. I'm just slowing things down or speeding something up and then slowing something down. And it's like, it's so basic. Like it's not.
I think you're overthinking it.
I know. I
Because,
definitely am.
I don't know, maybe there will be some people that think that. But I feel like the majority of people will be like, wow, that's cool. I want to do that.
Mhm.
I mean, just throwing an example out there. I mean, you tell me how bulked up you think I've gotten. And in my head, I was like, dude, I have a lot to go. And plus, like, the content I'm posting is literally the very beginning of my workout. I do just a few sets of warm up, and then I do my 6-rep max, and my 6-rep max is what I post. And then I do my hypertrophy workout for the next hour to 2 hours. I'm not pumped up in those videos at all. And so it just comes to show is just like people are going to be impressed. I mean, you and me both have good physiques. And so it's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah. It's so funny. No, you've gotten fucking big. In the last few weeks, you've gotten juicy, dude. Yeah.
I got so much to go.
It's so funny. Body dysmorphia is such a bitch because, like, people literally, like, I'll tell you, like, bro, you're huge. And you're like, nah, man, like, I've got so much to go. And it's like,
well,
I've
feel
been
like
training hypertrophy for years. I'm telling you, you're big.
it's a lot of, I don't know what you would call it, but it's like people I'm seeing every day, all my coworkers, they don't see it. It's just because every day you're getting just that much, bigger. And so I'm seeing that every day. And so I'm seeing the tiny increments, but you see the big steps. And so it makes a bigger difference to those that like, oh, and then you see every once in a while like, oh, but if I see it every day, I'm not seeing that. I feel like that is a big part of that. Like if I were to like today look at myself, like if I was at the beginning of my cut and then tomorrow look at myself how I am now, I'm sure I'd be impressed. But unfortunately, I mean, that's where I guess I have to just look at my content. That's the beauty of the content. I have it. Yeah. I have when I started, and so I gotta maybe look at that too. I don't know, but maybe I don't want to get cocky.
No, you couldn't. Well, on the subject of lifting, what have you, like, over these last couple of weeks, what have been your, like, top 5 supplements that are, like, well, just in the last year, what are your, like, top 5 so far? Not including protein.
Dude, I haven't been, well, okay. I've been taking fenugreek. I mean, I guess I've been taking that forever, and I love it. Fenugreek, ashwagandha, and ginger have been my 3 capsules that I take every day, or 3 times a day. And so I've been loving those. Wait, what did you say? Top how many supplements?
Top 5. Oh. Are you taking creatine?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So yeah, creatine's, well, dude, I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. So I got those 3, right? I would say creatine, and along with creatine, a lot of water. And I'm gonna use that as one of my 5, dude. Freaking, okay. I am not even joking. Like, your muscles are how much % water?
Like over 60.
Like, over 70. Yeah, high. And so what I realized is there was a week or so where I was not drinking. I was drinking half a gallon of water a day. And it was not good. And then I decided I'm going to tackle my water. And I started drinking a gallon. And just the difference is like, get your water in. You know, especially if you're taking creatine, just get that water in. And your muscles could absorb that water. And you're going to have more energy in the biggest pumps of your life. It's water, 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 water. Like, get that water in. That's just as important as your calories.
You can't even break down your calories without the water. Like you have to have the water for everything. It's crazy. The difference in your lifts. This is, dude, I have this strong belief when it comes to leg days. I start prepping for a leg day the day before. So the prep for the leg day, if I want a great leg day, I start the day before because legs are like some of the most important things. It's your vehicle. And if you want a great leg day, you have to overhydrate the day before, get as much calorie, make sure you meet your caloric intake so that the following day when you do your legs, you have everything ready to go. And you can get the sluttiest, craziest leg day, like pumps of your life if you prep properly for them. But if you try to hit a leg day dehydrated, bro, it's the worst, most depressing workout of your life. You're like, why am I not strong? Why am I weak? Where's all my energy 30 minutes in? Like, nothing's happening. Like, water intake is so important. And you don't realize it until, like, you're really lifting and you get a day where you're, like, fully hydrated versus days where you're, like, dehydrated. And the strength difference is insane. And it's so real. It's so fucking real.
Yeah, I would
What's
say
your current...
if you're getting your calories and your water in, dude, you're gonna have good.
Oh, yeah. What's your current split though? Like, what are you working out? Which days? Do you have a split, or are you just going with whatever feels?
No, I have a split. I mean,
Yeah, split.
you know, talking about it was the last podcast we really talked about structure versus chaos, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so structured. My life really, really has been structured, and that's just kind of my personality. Is I really like organization and such. And so, talking about workouts, like I have been so structured. Like I used to even just, I would have everything to a T. Like I could tell you the exact time my workout would end, like to the dot, because I would time my rest. Like exactly, I would have a timer. And progressing over time and embracing a little chaos, I have learned that you cannot time. Well, you can time your rest, but it's ideal to feel it out, and you feel when am I ready to hit the next set. And so, applying that to my split is I used to be so dead on with my split. Like I would have exactly each workout, how many sets, and it's just so organized and cut out. But I have changed it to where now it's muscle groups, right? And I will
Mm-hmm.
do workouts that I feel, and sometimes I'll mix, and a lot of times I'll mix it up, and sometimes I'll do the same thing of just targeting muscle groups. So my current split is kind of variation of push-pull legs.
Mm-hmm.
So I do 3 workouts, and I'll just repeat the 3 workouts. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll repeat the same muscle groups. So on Monday, I'll hit chest, triceps, shoulders, and traps. Tuesday, I'll hit biceps, forearms, lats, and abs. And then Wednesday, I'll hit legs, and then repeat the same for the next 3 days. And rest on Sundays. That's my split.
Okay. So you only have one day of rest.
Yes.
Okay.
That's another thing. It's just talking about splits and stuff, and you hear the bro split where it's just like one muscle a day, and there are different things, and everyone has different body types, and some people say you shouldn't work muscle groups out more than once a week. Some people say you should have multiple rest days. Some people say you should have no rest days. It all depends on you, just like how I was talking about the rest time. It depends.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, especially with me doing calisthenics for years and stuff, I feel like my muscular endurance is pretty high to
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like I can push 2 times a week muscle groups, and I could deal with 1 day of rest. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that works for me, but it
Yeah.
depends on your body. I feel like starting out working out, I feel like a bro split probably would be a good split. Plus, maybe multiple rest days a week if you're just starting, because your body's not accustomed to the fatigue in the muscle. So
I didn't even know it's called a bro split. That's freaking hilarious.
yeah, I think I heard that a few weeks ago, and
The bro split. I had no clue it was called that.
one muscle a day.
One
Which,
muscle
don't
group.
get me wrong, like when I had my knee injury and I couldn't work out legs, I had to divvy up my workouts, to cover the other days when I wasn't doing legs because I couldn't hit legs. It was awesome to be able to only hit chest and triceps, and just one day just chest and triceps. No other muscle groups. That was really cool. I enjoyed that because it allowed me to really focus on that. And honestly, I kind of rearranged my workouts because of that. And now, in my workouts, although I do work out 4 muscle groups each day, like even my leg day, I have my quads, my hammies, my calves, and my glutes. I split each day into 4 muscle groups, and 2 muscle groups of that day I will focus on hypertrophy training, while the other 2 I'll do more kind of 6-rep max and just kind of not crazy hypertrophy. And then on the second time I hit that in the week, I'll switch it. So the other 2 muscle groups will be my hypertrophy training, and then the other 2. So I can really focus hard on 2 muscle groups, while the other 2 I kind of just push a compound lift and not go crazy hypertrophy. And so I kind of learned from that. But you shouldn't don't go too crazy. It's definitely good to focus. Less is more when it comes to workout. The more, it's about quality rather than quantity.
Mm. It's one of the biggest things I've loved about all of the information I've stolen from Mike O'Hearn is quality over quantity. And one of my favorite quotes he has is drop the ego and lower the weight. Drop the ego, lower the weight. It's like a lot of people want to try to push a lot of weight really, really fast. Like nothing happens. They don't actually grow. And they don't experience strength increase or size increase. But it's like the moment you lower the weight and slow shit down is the moment growth happens. Like that's when you start seeing changes happen. And that's what I've done for years. It's so frustrating going into the gym and like, it's not frustrating, it's just like disheartening to see like younger guys going in there and just moving really quickly. Because when you're like young and you want to get big, you think you've got to catch up to these guys. Like you look at these big dudes, you're like, I got to move so fast to try to catch up to that dude. When in reality, it's the tortoise that will catch up to the hare. Like you've got to go slow to be able to catch up to that size, to get to that size. And like the slower you move, the more muscles you recruit, and the bigger you can get, and the stronger you can get. And you're so right, like quality over quantity every time. Like you get quality reps in where you're recruiting all of the muscles, every fiber. That's where you'll see the growth happen. Because like when you're making those quick movements, you're only using 10 to 15% of the muscle. Whereas that slow movement, that's where you're pulling like 90%, 100% of the muscle to like push that weight. A lot of people don't know that. They just think they got to move quick to get that like gain. And so they're like, it's like half a second per like concentric and half a second for eccentric. And it's 0 for isometric. It's just like as fast as they fucking get. Dude, probably less than that.
It reminds me of a thought that I've been thinking about. Honestly, I think I was thinking last night about this. Is a man who lives in chaos is a scary man, but a man who controls his chaos is like a dangerous man. And I think that applies to life and applies to the concept of working out. And I'm just thinking about like all of my goals in general. I think it applies to that too, and embracing the chaos, but organizing the chaos is, anyone could go to the gym and you could throw weight. You could speedily pump out reps, or you could eagle lift and throw on super heavy weight. But what's really gonna get you places is you control that chaos, is to where you're slowing down the reps, you're focusing on the form, you're really, putting in the effort into each intricate detail. And that's what's going to make you truly like, I don't know, I said scary and dangerous, but there's probably definitely better definitions to describe the two sides of that. But anything in life is you need chaos,
Mhm.
and you need to embrace that chaos. And thinking about all my goals when going down the drain is I feel like I embraced the chaos too much, and it overwhelmed me, and I lost stuff. But it's a matter of taking that chaos and organizing it and controlling it. And the man who controls the chaos is the man who's gonna see success.
Mm.
And I think it just applies to that concept. Is just you got to take it and control it, and that's what's going to be your success.
If you, the guy who goes in there and moves too quickly, and this is another thing that like one of the reasons why I swear by that I'll never get injured in the gym is I'm not moving too quick. The guys who move too quick are the ones who get injured. Like those are the ones that hurt somebody or hurt themselves. And if you slow down, you can actually listen to your body. You can feel when things are like, I shouldn't continue this one. Like this is one that I should stop. So speaking on this subject, like specifically, this last week I was hitting legs, and we've been talking about the Bulgarian split squats. Like I've been loving those, like hitting those consistently, trying to build up my leg strength. Three days ago, I was hitting Bulgarians, and I was going slow, and I think the 30th rep in on my right leg, I felt something in like the inside of like my groin, and I was like, wait, and I stopped, and I was like, no more, and I was like, I'm not pushing it. I know what that is. Like, I know how dangerous that is. Like, pulling a muscle in the leg or the groin area is one of the worst things you can do to your legs because it takes you out of leg day for months if you're not careful.
Yeah, I've been there recently.
Yeah. Dude, it's the worst. And so, like,
Yeah.
I was like, So yesterday, I was like, I'm going to try Bulgarians again. And I went for a couple reps on the left leg, and I went to the right leg, and I could still feel it. And I was like, like, we're just going to stretch this for the next 2 to 3 days. Like, we're just going to stretch this. Just because, like, if I were to just go into it really quick, I would pull, and I'd probably tear. And then I'm injured. Whereas, like, if I slow down, if I take the time into the lift, and I, like, move into the lift, and I feel it, and I don't try to fire through it, I'm less likely to injure myself. And that's where I'm like, okay, I'm not injured, but I'm close. And if I just stretch, make sure I get my liquids in, make sure I get my protein in, and don't eat a shit ton of inflammatories, that little like owie, whatever pull's going on will go away quickly. Within a week, it'll be gone. And I'll be back at my 50 to 60 reps, maybe more on my Bulgarians. No problem. But it's the slow movements that keep you alive for the long distance. It's that like listening.
To give a contradictory story, like my knee injury that I had, I started feeling it, and I was in the position you were, and I had a choice. I could keep pushing, or I could stop and give it some rest and let it recover and hit it again the next week. But I chose the wrong choice, right? I was at the beginning of my bulk, and I'm like, no, I'm pushing this weight, and I'm going to do this. And I pushed the weight, and I ended up injuring it a lot more, which took 3 months to recover. And so it just comes to show, it's just like, yeah, you got to feel it out. You got to control it. If you feel that slight weird discomfort, and the more you've been into lifting, you know what it feels like, stop. Yeah. Immediately stop, because that could turn into a serious injury that's going to hold you up for a long time. And so it's definitely, controlling that and realizing where you're at and making the smart choice. It's better to take a week off from lifting that muscle than 3 months. Yeah. Take it from me.
And to give context onto why that happens is dehydration. So if you are not hydrated enough, so even if you're just like somewhat hydrated but not hydrated enough, all it takes is it's like 3% dehydrated to tear a muscle. And so I knew that I hadn't been drinking enough water the day prior and that day. And I was like, I just need to get a lift in, Haven't been drinking enough, haven't been eating enough, but I'm going to go get a lift in. And I started lifting legs. And that's when I started to feel it. And I immediately knew, I was like, I haven't been drinking enough water. And if I push through this, I will tear this muscle, because the plasticity of a muscle is the only way you maintain that plasticity and that movement of the muscle is through hydration. When there's not enough water, it doesn't stretch and it's more likely to tear and break. And so I knew, I was like, I'm not hydrated. If I try to push through this, I'm going to hurt myself. Whereas if I was hydrated, I would, the even spot of injury probably wouldn't have come up. I wouldn't have had the discomfort, the pull. And I knew that too. I was like, I'm dehydrated and I'm going to injure myself this way. This is stupid. And I slowed it down, started drinking water, and just started moving to other muscle groups, moved to my back, which is a lot more comfortable. And I was like, okay, I can do other lifts, here. And then I went to just calves. I'm like, I can do calves comfortably. Nothing's pulled there. And just keep hydrating and moving slow throughout the workout. But yeah, if you're not hydrated, you will pull and tear something. That's where the majority of injuries happen, is through dehydration. It's just not getting your water in. And then getting cocky and ego lifting the legs. That's when motherfuckers fold themselves. I hate seeing that shit. I hate seeing that shit.
It's super scary. And I don't want to be that guy to go up to him, but at the same time, it's just, oof. It's just like, I feel like everyone's been there. That's lifted a while, It's just like, we've all been there. We've all ego lifted, but we've all felt injuries. It's like, we want to save you. Don't push it too hard. Control that weight. It's not about the ego. Even like, I know people that push 1 rep max every week. I'm like, you're not growing muscle from that 1 rep max.
No.
That's all ego. It's just like, that's why I push 6 rep max, and that's even, I would say that's even kind of borderline. It's just do your workouts. It's not about the external factors that people are gonna be like, wow, look at how heavy he's lifting.
And nobody's sitting next to you being like, oh my god, that's so much weight. Like, nobody's doing that shit. Like, chill out, right?
Yeah.
It's typically yourself. It's like looking in the mirror like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like, that's so funny though. I had something I was going to say about that. I totally forgot. Oh yeah. That's another thing, is when you push those thresholds, when you try to and it happens too often. I've had a lot of friends that I lifted with for years. Not years, just over the years, I would say. And before I moved to Hawaii, I had this buddy who was like, hey, I want to start working out again. I was like, okay, let's go to the gym. I'm not going to say his name. Love him to death. He came with me, went to the gym. He hadn't lifted in years. And I was like, we're going to take things slow. Your muscles got to get used to this. We're going to take things slow. And he was like, let's start benching. And I was like, no, we're going to warm up, just bands, just elastic bands, just stretching out the shoulders and everything. I always start with some sort of warm up, typically like a high intensity interval training for 5 to 8 minutes, where I'm just on the treadmill, sprint for a minute, walk for a minute. I just get the body moving, get my capillaries opened up, and then I just open up the shoulders with a band or something. I just get the body limber. And he was getting annoyed. He's like, no, let's start lifting. Let's start lifting. And I was like, bro, you haven't lifted in years. I lift every fucking day. Trust me, I still do this. I open the body up, get warmed up every day so that I don't get hurt. He's like, let's start benching. He was getting annoyed, right at the get-go, because he just wanted to start lifting. I was like, dude, no, just trust me. I've been doing this a long time. And I was like, we're going to start with shoulders, just a couple of lateral raises just to get those muscles pumped up and going, just moving. I was like, then we're going to move into arms, and we can do a little bit of chest, and then, we'll go from there. And he wanted to jump right into chest. He's like, I want to bench now. And I was like, bro, and I'm just doing my lateral and then some buys just to get things going, because it was an arm day or whatever for me, but mostly a chest and a shoulder. And he got the first shoulder workout, the first lateral raise workout in, and he went straight to the bench. And I was like, whatever, I'm not even going to follow him. And I look over at him, and he puts a 45 on either side, and he hasn't lifted in years. And he's not even warming up the chest. When I do chest, I start with the bar still. I still start with just the bar, and I do 15 reps, just the bar, just to get the chest opened up, the muscles activated, things warm. he immediately throws a 45 on the other side. And I was like, I looked away. I didn't want to see it. I was like, this, whatever. Like, and he lifted it off the bar. He dropped it on his chest and didn't get it up. And I walked over, pulled it up onto the bar. And he's like, dude, I used to be so strong. Like, I don't know what happened. And I'm like, dude, you haven't even warmed up. Like, you haven't even gotten started. He's like, no, I used to be able to lift this no problem. And I'm like, dude, chill. Like, we haven't even gotten the workout started. Like, you shouldn't be able to do just a 45 right from the get-go. He's like, I think I'm going to squat. And in my head, I was like, this is the moment where this guy stops working out for the next 2 years. If he goes to the squat rack, he's not going to lift again for the next 2 years. And I was like, we're not doing legs. That's not even in the workout for today. And he's like, I want to squat. I want to squat. I used to be able to do 2 45s on either side. Like, I should be able to do this. And I was like, no. And he immediately like starts loading a 45 onto the squat rack. Same shit, dude. When it comes to squatting, I just start with the bar. Like, just the bar. Just to get warmed up. And he just throws a 45 on that. I was like, bro, I'm telling you, this isn't a good idea. You're being stupid. And I got angry. Like, I got upset. I was like, dude, stop. And he was like, no, dude, I know what I'm doing. And I was like, okay. And I stood back. And to this day, I feel guilty for standing back. I still am like, fuck. Because he has not lifted since this day. And this was years ago. This was over 4 years ago.
I was going to say that. I was like, right from the get-go of your story, I was going to say, I guarantee you he hasn't lifted after that day.
Yeah. He loaded 2 45s onto this bar. He didn't load a 45. He loaded 2 45s onto this bar. And I stood back. And I was like, are you sure you want to? He's like, I promise I can do this. And I was like, okay. And I just like stood back. And he unracked this thing and it folded him. Like, just completely folded him. And I was so mad. But I felt terrible. I was just like, and I grabbed the bar and I like helped pull it off of his shoulders onto just like the supports. And he's like, dude, I think I fucked up my back. And I was like, yeah, I bet you fucking did. Like, you idiot. And he's like, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go. And he ended up leaving like right immediately after the attempt of the squat. He just like got in his car and he left. And I was so upset. I was so mad and so furious. And I texted him and I was like, dude, next time you go to the gym, like, you should seriously just listen. Like, I've been doing this a long time. Like, I'm sorry you folded yourself. But like, that was crazy. That was honestly insane. And he still has yet to lift to this day. And it's those like moments where you let the ego get a hold of you that you ruin like any possible chance of growth. And it's to this day, I'm still very like adamant about just starting with the bar, starting with nothing and just like getting the body warmed up.
Yeah, I think that's a typical example of just extrinsic motivation. Like I was saying, that guy, and I have an example of it too. That guy, he was letting the chaos control him instead of him controlling the chaos. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I see a lot of people, they get really pumped. Like, I got a bunch of buddies to go to the gym once. And it was awesome. We had like 5-6 guys all to go to the gym. And we're like, okay, we're going to work out chest. It's going to be a great workout. We're going to get some bench and do some flies and some of this. And so we start going into it, and they instantly wanted a PR. And I'm like, I wanted to work out in, but I guess we could kind of include a PR in that. And so we all get up to our PRs, and then immediately after that, they're like, now I want to squat. I want to squat now. And so they all start loading a bunch of plates on and trying to squat. And it's just the same type of story. And guess what? I don't know if they've worked out much since that day. It's just, you get pumped, you get with your buddies, you listen to that motivational video, or you get that song that really pumps you up, and you go to the gym, and then you try to, and that chaos is controlling you. And it's controlling you. And you're gonna hurt yourself, or you're gonna push a weight, and you're not gonna get a benefit from it. Mm-hmm. It's just you have to control that chaos. As you have to go in there and warm up and take your time and accept that progress is going to be a long pursuit. It's not going to be, you're not going to get any result from one workout. I'm sorry. It's the group of workouts for 3 months. You know, that's what they say. You don't see any results in the gym until consistent 3 months of working out. Mm-hmm. And so that's, embrace the chaos. I mean, and control it. and understand that it's going to be patience.
That's why, dude, I say that, like, if you took somebody and they were consistent with my training schedule for 4 years, they'd be bigger and stronger than me. Like, extend the time horizon. Don't beat yourself up for not doing what you were able to do. Like, currently, I look back 4 years ago, it kills me, okay? 4 years ago, I was able to military press on either arm 115 pounds, and I was so proud of it. Currently, I can do maybe 85, and kills me, dude, kills me just to think about it. Like, fuck, man, I'm so weak. But I'm not going to just go rush and try the hundreds. Even the hundreds, not even the 95s. Like, I will work my way back up. I will take my time. Because injuring yourself is not fucking worth losing the gym for 2 years. Like, if I were to try to just rush to the hundreds or the 115s, I guarantee I'm going to hurt my shoulder. And I've had plenty of friends that, like, upright pressing, hurting their shoulders just because they got ego involved and they're like, oh, I used to be able to. I don't give a fuck what you used to be able to. What can you currently do? Let's start with 75% of what you can currently do. Like, let's start with 65% of what you can currently do. Like, if you can do 50s, we're going to start at like the 40s, the 30s. Like, we're just going to get things moving because it's not worth it. Like, the injury, too many times I've had too many friends that will push, get injured, and they're out. They're out for a year, they're out for 2 years. And when you're out for that long from a severe injury, I've got buddies who are in their 30s that are like, oh, my back's hurt me ever since this one lift or this thing. I pulled my back on this workout way back when. And it's like, what happened? What'd you do? I guarantee I know what it was.
Well, that's where I'm a big fan of the kind of procedure I have been doing with my 6-rep max. Is what I did is I was at the beginning of my bulk end of my cut, and what I did is I found a weight that was easy. It wasn't heavy. A lot of times it was either like 135 or something pretty simple like that. And each week I'm just pushing 5 more pounds. And even though if it was easy and it wasn't that difficult, I would just push 5 more pounds. And by keeping yourself to a limit like that, you're not going to injure yourself because you're on a progressive overload, and you're not going to get your ego's not going to take control over you. And I feel like if you take longer than like 2 weeks of a break off, then I'm sorry, you're resetting. You're back to ground zero because you're gonna injure yourself. You can't take that mindset of, well, I used to lift that weight. Heck, I'm guilty of it. After my knee recovered, I started hitting legs again, and I decided, like, after kind of warming up into legs and like 2 weeks into it, I'm like, I'm gonna start squatting what I was squatting 3 months ago after 3 months of not doing legs. And you know what happened? I injured my lower back, and it's injured now, and I can't squat. And so you can't let the ego, we're all guilty of it, but it's just the fact of if you can take the advice and not let the ego control over you, and heck, if you could work out and never go over 135, you're probably better than everyone else. Like, if you could find good workouts.
The number one rule I tell people, and I will stick with this to the day that I die, because this has been my rule for at least 5 years for keeping my body safe and reducing any possible risk of injury, is if you cannot do the weight with perfect form or good form for at least 6 reps, you cannot do the weight. Go down. If you cannot do 6 reps with good form, drop the weight. You're not allowed to touch it. I follow that to this day. If I can only do 5 reps of something, I move down the next week. I won't fucking do it. It's not worth the risk. Because if you can only do 3 reps, I know that according to even to the NASM book, 1 rep max is considered what you can do for 3 reps with good form. Like, it's not even 1 rep. Like, when you look at the actual calculations of the 1 rep max, it's 3 reps without sacrificing form. That's your 1 rep max. And even anything under 6 reps, you're not releasing any sort of natural growth hormones. You're not growing. You are not building strength under 6 reps. You have to have at least 6 reps for your body to be releasing growth hormones, to be adapting, to basically releasing the hormones to adapt to that weight. If you're only doing 4 reps, you're not adapting to that weight. You have to do at least 6 So it's like, why do any less than 6? Why do 4? Your body's not going to adapt to that weight. You can do 3 plates on a squat on either side, but you can only do 3 reps. You can't do that weight technically. You can't adapt to it. It's not worth it. Adapt to the 2 plates and the 35s on either side. You do 6 or 8 reps there, fucking golden. Stay there until you can do 10. Then move up. Like, it's not worth it. It's never worth it to get hurt, especially in the groin, especially in the fucking groin.
Leg injuries are literally the worst, or back injuries, worst.
No, they put you out for way too long. Arm injuries, actually, I did have an arm injury, and it wasn't my fault. Those are the worst. When somebody else injures you in the gym, that's the fucking worst. That pissed me off. I remember yelling at that kid. I love him to death. He's a great homie of mine. Good kid. Really good kid. But he was young at the time. He was 15. And he was throwing around a medicine ball. Just being stupid. And I was like, hey, dude, stop. Like, we're lifting. And he's like, hey, Tanner. And I'm like, no, dude, stop. He's like, I'm going to throw it at you. I'm like, bro, we're lifting right now. Put that shit down. And I turned around and I was talking to his brother. And he threw it at me. And he's like, think fast. And I turned, and I didn't even, like, there was no time to react. And it hit the back of my elbow and, like, slightly hyperextended it. And, like, I turned to let it roll off the back of my body. But I felt it in my elbow, and I was like, fuck. And I looked at him, and I was like, get out of the gym. Leave now. And he was like, what? And I was like, leave now. And his older brother was like, dude, just go. Just go. And I was like, I don't want to see you for the next 3 weeks. I was so mad, and I couldn't lift my arm. Like, at all. I couldn't lift like a 25 on my right arm for like 2 weeks. I was pissed. Yeah, I was so upset. But, I mean, he was young. He was 15. Like, that's how they are in the gym at that age. But yeah. It wasn't worth it. Nothing's worse than getting injured. Getting injured by somebody else will piss you off even more.
I couldn't imagine. It already frustrates me enough at myself when I injure myself.
Yeah.
Beat myself up so much.
Yeah. I love the kid though. He's a good human. He's a good one. He's one of my good homies. So I don't hold any beef with him for it. And he knew he was young at the time. It happens.
Yeah.
Well, should we go over goals? Even though...
Like, what do you say we do an old school? Just one goal.
One goal?
Okay. One goal a week. What do you say? I'm
down. I'm game.
I think that just simplifies it. Pick a weak spot and make a goal. Okay. Well, I guess thinking of last week, I think my goal was music, and I've been hammering that, so that's cool. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I spoke a lot about my intellectually suffering, and so I'm gonna make that goal of, if anything, a few minutes of reading. I'm gonna try to maybe establish an hour, but if it's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes. I don't care. I want to get daily reading and intellectual growth in, so that's my goal.
Okay. I have been doing good with my fitness and my diet, and my honest to God goal would just be staying consistent with my caloric intake. I'm hitting around 3,500 to 3,700 a day, and I just want to keep doing that. So lifts have been great. Just if I keep with the diet, the lifts will continue. So I just want to stay there. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. So that'd be my goal. Just keep eating. Just keep fucking eating.
That's a good goal.
All right. That concludes episode 21 of 2 Minutes to Life. We will see you guys next week.